Hello, and welcome to Music Theory Tutor. We're going to go ahead and get the answers from Lesson 1. Question number 1, based on what you have just learned, what is the interval between two adjacent black notes? The example I gave was C sharp to D sharp. The answer is there is only one note between two adjacent black notes, which is a white note. For example, the only note between C sharp and D sharp is D. This is an interval of a whole step. Question number 2, earlier in the lesson, I mentioned the major scale was made up of two groups of 4 notes, containing the intervals 1, 1, 1/2. Do you remember what those groups of 4 notes were called? Answer, a tetra. If you put two tetras together, you get a scale. Let's move on to last lesson's practice, which was choose 3 random notes on the keyboard, at least one black key, and do your best to construct a major scale on each of these notes. I'm going to go ahead and give 2 examples here to give you a good idea of what you should be doing. E and A flat. So first off, we see E to E, and I've got all the intervals already shown. Let's compare to the intervals that it should be, which is 1, 1, 1/2, 1, 1, 1, 1/2. So the first interval we have here between E and F is a half step, which is incorrect. So to fix this, we're going to replace F with F sharp, making this a whole step. Now between F sharp and G we have a half step instead of a whole step, so we're going to add a G sharp in place of the G, causing another whole step. Between G sharp and A we have a half step, between A and B we have a whole step, those are both correct. Between B and C we have a half step, and that is incorrect. We need a whole step, so we are going to replace C with C sharp. Now there's a whole step between B and C sharp. And moving on, we have a half step between C sharp and D, which is incorrect. We're going to have to replace the D with a D sharp, leaving us with the final interval of a half step between D sharp and E. Let's move on to the next example. Here you see we have the notes A to A, but I did say earlier we're going to do A flat to A flat. So let's lower those A's down to flats. In blue I've marked the intervals that we're going to shoot for. So the first note we're going to add here to get a whole step between A flat and the next note is a B flat, lowering the B and causing a whole step between A flat and B flat. The next note, C, is correct because we want a whole step between B flat and C, but the next note is going to be a half step away because this is scale steps 3 and 4. So we're going to lower the D to a D flat. Our next interval needs to be a whole step, so we're lowering the E to an E flat. But our next 2 steps are already correct because E flat to F is a whole step, F to G is a whole step, and G to A flat is a half step. And those are the answers to the questions from the previous lesson, so stay tuned for lesson 2.